All right, time for another Viz for Social Good session on this fine Saturday. What are we, July 23rd, 2022. I come to you from my new home in South Central United States. We just made a move to Louisiana. I am up to my ears in boxes and whatnot here. And finally slept in our bed last night. So drinking my coffee and really happy to be with you this morning. We've got four folks this morning to present their vises for our latest project. So really happy to see folks this morning, or for those of you who are watching on the recording that we are now recording. Let's see, here I go. I can't even see what I'm doing in my new setup here. Here we go. I'll wake up. All right. So this month we're doing a fun project. Build Up Nepal. We're doing Bridges to Prosperity. We've done a project for this group before. We really enjoyed it. And so we've invited them back. And so we're giving a test to see how it works when we bring a project back for a second go round. So really happy to be working with Abby and the team on a second project here. Why am I not seeing? There we go. Now you're seeing.
Sorry, Kevin, I think those are the slides from the previous project.
Ah.
Those are Build Up Nepal project.
Should be Bridges to Prosperity. I think it's got the right after that. I think.
No, those are the ones I just sent on Slack.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Just keep.
Yeah. So the first slide was a little off. Just noticed that and just kind of bounce through it. So again, welcome everyone. We'll have a quick overview. If you don't know that much about Viz for Social Good, I'll give you a little quick rundown. Fred can add all the important stuff I forget to mention. And then we'll turn it over to Abby to talk about the current project for Bridges to Prosperity, not Build Nepal. And then we've got at least four here. If the fifth arrives, we'll have five folks present their visualizations that were selected or were enjoyed by the team. We'll have a chance to Q&A with folks. How did you do this? How did you do that? What did you like? What didn't you like? How'd you get started? All those kind of fun things. Then Fred will talk a little bit about our Viz for Social Good Champion Tracker and points that folks are now earning. This is the first project that we are implementing, our new Viz for Social Good Champions Tracker. Fun way to gamify what we do and try and encourage you all to submit, even if it's not your best work or the most time you could spend on it. We like everybody to submit and show us what you come up with, because everybody has a unique perspective on data. And so the more folks we get submitting, the more that we are able to do for the charity that we're working with. So again, and then at the end, we'll have a chance to take a group picture with those of us that are here this morning. So again, Viz for Social Good. I've been working with Viz for Social Good since 2018, I believe. So about 4 years. I think I'm into my 5th year now. I started as the Atlanta chapter lead. Now I'm one of the leads for Americas, which I really love being a lead for the Americas, because I have Mexican heritage and I have Chilean heritage. So I can cover all three of the Americas, living here in North America with ancestors coming from Central and South America. So if you know anybody in any of the Americas looking to do a project with us or looking to get involved, I'm one of the folks to contact. But we've got a strong board all around the world. Fred is down in Brisbane this morning, or this evening for him. this afternoon for those of you in Europe. And so we've got a team spread out all over the world. And we do about 6 projects a year or so, about every other month. We do a project for a charity. They give us their data and we make it available to any of our volunteers. How many volunteers are we up to, Fred, in our tracker? Somewhere 400 or 500, we more than that.
587. I just checked.
Up-to-date numbers, 587 volunteers out there. We get a varying number of submissions. I think we got 40 or more submissions this go round, which is a pretty good number. I think our highest maybe was 80 something.
Yeah.
But we get the volunteers to submit their visits. We are tool agnostic, so you can use any tool that you want to use. We tend to get a majority of Tableau dashboards because Tableau is a great tool and it's pretty easy to use and there's lots of resources available. But we get Power BI, we get D3, we get all kinds of submissions using different tools. So you can use any tools you want to. You just have to make it publicly available. So have a URL to it so we can link to it and check it out and send it along to our current project sponsors, and they go through and take a look at all of them. They make a selection of ones that they would like to see. We invite those folks to come to these sessions like today so they can present and we can interact with them and ask them, hey, how'd you do that? And how'd you come up with this? And what were your thoughts here? And we have a good time, or at least I have a good time every time. Hopefully everybody has a good time during our sessions where we see the volunteers present. And then we move on to the next project. And again, occasionally we come back to a project as we're doing today with Bridges to Prosperity. So that's the basic process. That's the basic way that we go through and work with the charities and these projects here at Visit for Social Good. So I think Chloe started it in 2016, maybe. So I missed the first couple of years, but been doing it with her since 2018. What did I miss? What should people know about Visit for Social Good, Fred? Anything I missed?
No, nothing. Is all very comprehensive, and people enjoy it. People enjoy building a profile online and then learning and meeting new friends. I think that's good.
Yeah. One thing that I did remember is that we do have a Slack channel, which allows you to really interact with folks ahead of time as you're building your viz to ask questions of the sponsors. And so I know Abby and her team were on Slack answering questions for folks as they were building them and getting to know each other and learning from each other. So it's really a great learning and growth experience for our volunteers, and it's a great opportunity for the charities to have somebody else take a look at their data. And I can imagine for the charities, sometimes that might be scary. People are seeing our data and they're digging into our data. And so we really appreciate them having that openness to say, here's our data, take a look at it and see if you can find some stories or some insight in there that we haven't found. So it's a really good opportunity to, there it is again, Fred, we got the wrong one there. But I guess I've got the wrong slide, so I'll just go back to our overview slide and let me turn it over to Abby. And Abby, tell us about Bridges to Prosperity, the current project, what we've been doing with you and what we're looking at in this current project.
For sure. Thanks so much. And thanks for everybody that's here and everybody that submitted, everyone that's watching later. My name is Abby Noriega. I lead monitoring, evaluation, and research, basically all things data, technology, and impact evaluation for Bridges to Prosperity. I am here in Denver, Colorado, though most of our staff is in East Africa. So if you're not familiar with Bridges to Prosperity, we are a nonprofit organization that builds trail bridges in rural areas so that people can get to critical services and destinations like schools, markets, clinics, hospitals, peri-urban centers and hubs, things like that. We have built just over 400 bridges that serve about 1.5 million people all over the world in 20 countries. Currently, we have active bridge building programs in Rwanda, Uganda, and then with our partners Palvatos in Ethiopia. And we have needs assessments happening in Cote d'Ivoire and Zambia right now. We are essentially, and this is, I think, critical to what this project was about, is that for the first part of our organization's history, we were really focused on learning and figuring out how to build trail bridges that are cost effective and durable in the most remote places in the world, using very little or no heavy machinery or kind of modern conveniences because of where we were building and how we were building. Right, it's not unusual for a B2P trail bridge to be constructed you know, in a location where you have to drive for 4 hours and then you're maybe on a moto for another hour and then you walk for another 45 minutes. We are serving communities that use trail infrastructure because we build trail infrastructure. Over the last several years, we have shifted our strategy a bit. We will always be bridge builders. That's an important part of our work. But when we started looking at the scale of the problem, the scale of the issue of rural access and rural connectivity, we realized that we were never going to address the problem on a reasonable time scale by just being implementers. And so we've kind of shifted our strategy to not just be about building bridges, but to include how bridges get built. And so looking at all the mechanisms that are in place, the barriers that currently exist to a national government addressing rural access in a real way nationwide, because we believe that this is a problem that can be solved within our lifetime. And so we want to be able to figure out how to do that. Yeah, and those are some great examples of B2P trail bridges. That one's in Rwanda. What you just saw before was in Panama. And so a big part of our strategy these days is leveraging the impact data that both we've collected and then other folks in the sector have collected to bring important stakeholders on board with us and understand the importance of investing in trail infrastructure because it's something that's just really not at the forefront of people's minds, even though it is, we believe, one of the most impactful investments you can make in addressing poverty. And so that brings us to this particular project in these briefs. One of the things that we're working on this year is a set of topical briefs about the importance and the return on investment that you get out of trail infrastructure, and in particular trail bridges. And so what we've asked you to do our second time around with the project with Viz for Social Good is to, it's I think kind of difficult and complicated. And that was actually, I think, one of the nice things about, you know, being a second time organization with Viz for Social Good is going into this, we have a good idea of how the project works, how the process works, what to kind of expect from volunteers. And so I'm really grateful for the Viz for Social Good team and all the volunteers for coming with us along this journey and helping us figure out a more complicated project, right? This wasn't one set of data that's kind of tackling one thing. This was, we have actually 4 topics and lots of statistics and data related to those 4 topics that we want to be able to describe and illustrate in a succinct and impactful way. And I hope it was constructive, and I hope it was fun for the volunteers that participated. Would love to hear your feedback, you know, perhaps at the end of this session or on Slack or Twitter later about how it went for you. And certainly would love to hear for the Viz for Social Good folks on this. But for us, it has already been incredibly productive. Going through all the visits with our team, have lots of ideas.
Oh.
We spent a lot of time staring at. So I would say that it was I would say that for us, it's already been just incredibly productive, and we're very, very grateful. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else that I should cover here? Apologies for my dog in the background.
Yeah, I'm surprised my bassets aren't hearing your dog and barking right back. They're downstairs in the new setup, so maybe folks won't hear my basset so much anymore. But no, Abby, that's a good rundown of the project. Again, I love the fact that we're doing a follow-up one. And I love the fact that you challenged us to say, okay, you guys did great the first go round. You helped us dig into to our survey data and really helped us tell the story of what we do. But now you wanted folks to go the next level. And, that's what data visualization is all about. You don't just stop when, oh, I found something, here you go, here's a viz. We don't want you to stop there. We want folks to continue to look through that data, mine that data, and find interesting things that they can share and show folks. And so, again, if folks have not gone out to their website, bridges2prosperity.org, I brought it up in the background while Abby was giving you the overview. And there's lots of information and examples and ways that you can participate with them, not just Viz for social good, but you can participate with Bridges to Prosperity on an ongoing basis. So I really love this organization. I love what they do. And I love the fact that they've realized, hey, we could build these bridges and have some impact. But if we can help other people learn the process, learn from what we've done, we're going to get a lot more bridges built. And so we're going to have a lot bigger impact. So it kind of goes back to my teaching experience. Yeah, I can teach you something and that's great. But if I can teach you how to teach this to others, I'm going to have a bigger impact. And so I really see that going on with Bridges to Prosperity. I really love what they do. I love where they're going. And again, they've been a great charity for us to partner with. Isn't that true, Fred?
Yes, 100%. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my microphone on. Yeah, so it's been an awesome, and thanks, Abby, for the Slack interactions. I think that it was challenging. Like I did it myself, and it was hard because sometimes there was only one measure to visualize. But I mean, data is not easy, so I think that was good challenge, and I think people delivered, so that was awesome. So let's hear for them now.
Yeah, let's take a look at a few. So on my list from Fred, I have Varun first. Varun, do you want to show us your visualization? Share with us through Zoom here, so we can see your screen and look at what you developed.
Hi everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it and we can hear you. Very good.
Yeah. So hello again, and this is the dashboard that I created for Bridges to Prosperity. And cool. So let's dig into this, right? So this screen that you're seeing here, this is the landing page, and it essentially tells people who Bridges to Prosperity are, what do they envision, and what kind of problem are they trying to solve, right? Talks about rural isolation and how this affects poverty, and essentially it also talks about what are the most important numbers about B2P, like how many bridges they have made, how many people have they served, and how many countries do they operate in, right? So this essentially sets the stage for everyone who is going to dig deep into this brief, right? So a couple of things here. So you can download the PDF also. In case you want a print version, you have the contacts to Bridges to Prosperity and BFSD website also. And yeah. So let's dig into one of the briefs, right? So climate and environment, this talks about how climate change poses an acute threat to rural communities and how B2P helps this, right? And yeah. Cool. So I hope you are seeing the next screen. So yeah, before digging into the content, I just want to talk about like how this is structured. So essentially, since the statistics that we have are just single numbers, right, in more or less every case. So to make it more interesting and more human, I tried to add a human to this screen, right? So we meet a person called Davina, and who is she, what does she do, and how does rural isolation and poverty affects her life, right? It's and someone from, I guess, product background or UX background might heard of something called user persona, right? So this is essentially a user persona for a person who is really affected by, whose livelihoods are affected by climate and environment and rural isolation, right? And yeah, so digging deep, we have three different sections here. So each of these is one different measure that is shared by the team, and each of these three are again, divided into three subsections. So it essentially talks about what is the exact crux of the thing that we are trying to see. If we are saying that, okay, there is a risk of climate change, then what exactly are we talking about? And here we are talking about increasing precipitation and how safe access is going to be more important as time goes on, right? And it also um, complements the text with a visual that is, first of all, easy to understand, printable, and in most of the cases non-interactive, just to cater those people who are just going to read it as in print form, right? In this case, we have a tooltip also, but it essentially adds another level of detail in exact numbers. But the most important uh, statistic that we want to hear is that the precipitation is going to be doubled by the end of the century, right? Uh, One of the most fun thing that I had that I encountered here is to create this particular section. So essentially, okay, we are talking about something, some phenomena that is happening, but how does this really affect the people, right? So how does this affect Davina that we have uh, introduced earlier, right? So it talks about, okay, she has children and uh, she does not have much medical facilities around her village, so she have to go to a different village, cross a river to meet a doctor and so on, right? And this essentially poses a threat if the river is going to flood, right? And also, if she's going to sell crops, then again, this is the same hindrance that she's going to have, right? So essentially, each of these briefs going into really digs deep into how does this person is getting affected by this particular thing, and how does essentially bridge to prosperity helps us. So in the last section, you can see, okay, bridges to prosperity uh, create rail bridges, and how does this affect? Because in the previous we have seen, okay, floods actually decrease wage income, right? So if bridges to prosperity helps mitigate this particular threat, how does it affect Avina? Okay, she's going to she's able to sell her crops during the flood season, she's getting medical attention during flood season, she's getting customers to her small businesses during flood season. So essentially, flood is not a hindrance to her life, right? And that is one of the key takeaway that we can take, right? uh, So each of these briefs going ahead is kind of structured in the same way. If you go to the next one, which is talking about feeder roads, we are meeting another person who is essentially who's again struggling with rural isolation, and how does feeder roads come into play. So this one talks about Bonifacio from Panama, and how does this feeder roads, first of all, improve infrastructure, and how does this affect Bonifacio, and how does uh, it affects community as a whole, and how they affect income. And really easy charts to follow here, like 69% increase or 35% rate of returns, either a ring chart or a unit chart, which is very commonplace and very easy to understand by a layman, right? uh, Talking about the next brief, I hope I'm not over time. Yeah, so this brief is kind of different from the others because of the persona that we're talking about. This person is not essentially one of the people who are living in those villages which have rural isolation, but he is kind of well off. He lives in a good village, but he is a merchant who sell crops to the bigger, to the city, right, to the town center we are in. And he essentially is a distributor who get the crops from small farmers around it. And those small farmers are from these rural isolated villages, right? And so here comes the rural urban nexus and its role, right? First of all, that if there's a huge rural population, huge peri-urban population, this guy is going to know about it because they are sustained by the crop that he is selling, right? And small farmers, no one better understands the role of small farmer in how, so small farmers in role of small farmers in food consumptions, and how does bridges affect him, right? Again, one very easy to understand charts and unit charts that you can see. Similarly, we have one for agriculture also, and talks about similar kind of things. We meet Davina again, who we met in climate and environment brief, and again talking about really focusing on agriculture and how rural poverty depends on agriculture, how bridges drive farm profits, and how road improvement increase income by reducing post-harvest losses. One of the key things that I kind of find out while fiddling around with data is that each brief it's in itself tells a story. So these are not some isolated measures that have been put on the screen. They essentially tells a story if you look through it. And keeping and focusing on really one person is has helped me to guide the user through this story, and how does what are her struggles, what are her pain points, and how does Bridge to Prosperity makes her life better. So these are the 4 bridges, and this is the dashboard that I created.
Yeah, it's really nice. I really like the way that you put it together and the way that it flows and the storytelling and the ability to kind of interact with it, but yet to be able to print it off and use it just as PDFs is really nice the way that you have set it up. Abby, did you have any questions or comments on this one? This is really lovely work.
Yeah, I thought this was really beautifully done. And, you know, I was so curious about what we were going to get back when we, you know, basically had a huge ask with a lot of information. And I thought this was just a great answer to that. How do you take a bunch of complicated information and bring people along with you to understand all that information and come to a conclusion? I thought that this was really successful in that. I loved the use of our brand in this. Frankly, I thought that was a really, really nice. I thought it was a lot of simple. It was a simple and beautiful way to get a lot of complicated information across. I loved how the data or the statistic that you wanted to point to was always kind of in the same place. There was like a linear or a stepwise kind of way to get to that information in every viz, and that every single data point was connected to a personal story in a way I thought was really, really cool. And it was, I mean, the amount of thought that went into this, I thought was really, really evident and very clear. We love this. And just kind of to note that I'm kind of also aggregating the feedback from our team on this, and that our team has had a chance to look and was also really excited to be able to see everything here. So everything you're hearing from me is also coming from the BCP team as a whole. But thank you for this. I loved it.
Great design, Varun. Well done. Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Really well done.
Very cool.
I'm Doc Elder. I teach. That's why I'm Doc Elder, not a medical doctor. I'm a professor going back into the classroom after a brief exit from the classroom for a year. And I'm going to use this one as a good example of storytelling and make sure my students are aware that we can do this for charities as well as businesses. It's a great place to learn. Ellen, I think you're up next on my list of folks.
Yeah.
Would you like to share your visualization, Ellen, and show us what you came up with?
Yeah, of course. Let me just share my screen.
And while people wait, I've put something on the chat. Don't forget to vote for your favorite data viz on Slack as well. I just put the link there.
Ah, very good.
So hopefully you can all see my screen. Let me know if not. But so I guess I wanted to, before I kind of dive into all of the different pieces I've put together, actually go through my thought process and kind of why I approached it in the way that I did. For me, when I was looking at the recording of the kind of kickoff session the team hosted, I noticed the two main things were ultimately this is going to be an A4 document that kind of you're going to be using it for static uses. So that was kind of one of the key pieces that we wanted to deliver on. And the second piece was the challenge of, I know it's already been mentioned, but the challenge of visualizing a single measure or where we have sparse data. So those were the two pieces for me that I wanted to focus on. One, because I wanted to kind of fill the brief, but I also think visualizing those single measures is very challenging and something that I wanted to try and attempt in my free time. And so the tool that I've used for this, I used Illustrator. This is my first project with Illustrator, so please be very kind. So still in that kind of new beginner territory, and there's a bit of a learning curve. But what I wanted to show here was how do we take kind of statistics and show them in a fun way, in a way that could be translated and could be cherry picked and put into your own policy documentation. I didn't want to go so heavy with the narrative because I thought that might be something that you wanted to sculpt, but if you could cherry pick from here some of those visualizations to use in the pieces that you put together, that may be helpful. So I'll try to go through the majority of the infographics that I put together, but I know we've only got kind of 5 to 10 minutes. So for this first page, this was the one that was focusing on climate and environment. So I picked the 3 statistics from that data dictionary that you provided and started thinking about, well, how could we visualize those in a fun way? And so the first stat was this 100% increase or double in intense rainfall events that were expected by the end of the century. And I think this was for East Africa, we can see here. So I wanted to visualize that in a way that we could see what we were talking about was to do with water, it was to do with waves. And you can see, if I just zoom in here, that this curve in the background is showing you the simulated precipitation, and that's for 2100. And then what we see in the bottom half of the screen is actually the precipitation as it was in 2020. So here we're showing that there is in fact going to be a double in rainfall events. So that's what kind of we're showcasing here. And then I recognize that with the precipitation piece, that ties very heavily into the stat that you provided around how the mean wage income differs when we have a bridge or when we don't have a bridge. So this was for the use case, I believe, in Nicaragua. So what I was trying to illustrate on this side is how, and you can see, sorry, the unit here is the Cordoba that they use in Nicaragua. So the monetary, the figures that you can see here is relating to that currency. And we can see quite clearly that when there is no bridge, that mean wage income is lower. But when there was a bridge put into those particular areas, we saw that there was an increase in the mean wage income that families were experiencing in those areas. And so we wanted to kind of tie that into the story that we were telling in this graphic here. The second piece that I wanted to kind of go into was this stat here, which it left me scratching my head for a while as to how do we go about visualizing that. So the 10% decrease in the fraction of harvest stored for personal consumption. And I thought, well, when I was looking at some of the source material that was provided, so kind of where those stats were coming from, it mentioned that kind of the main crops that are grown in this area, one of them is maize. So if we were thinking about maize and corn, how could I kind of take that stat and then kind of represent that graphically? And that's what you can see here. So what I've tried to document is that we've got our corn on the cobs and we've got our corn kernels, and we can see that the total that we have on this screen, that is the current amount that families in Nicaragua at the moment would, before a bridge, I should say, would have to store for their own personal consumption. But we have noticed from the work that's been done in those areas that when a bridge is built, I should say, that actually what we're highlighting in this grey area here is that no longer needs to be stored for personal consumption. What we can in fact do here is actually sell that produce at the market, which is going to mean more money and more income for those families, and in turn kind of lead to greater food security. So that was kind of what I was trying to emphasize with this particular graphic. In addition to the climate and environment brief, I've also put together a couple of, I would say, probably more icons and infographics that potentially could be used in your own briefs. But this one was on the feeder roads. And so again, focusing on the three main statistics that I could see in that data dictionary. The first of which is our one where we were looking at Ethiopia, and we've said that it's estimated that feeder roads in Ethiopia would lead to an internal rate of return between 12 to 35%. So that's what I was trying to kind of visualize on this kind of gorge chart. And here, what we're trying to emphasize is that rural infrastructure, ultimately the investment that we're making in that rural infrastructure are kind of directly going to impact those local economies and those people that are directly sitting in those villages. In addition, a couple of quick stats that we've got down the bottom here. This one hopefully are quite obvious when you look at them, but we've got a 69% increase in road area after we've created these kind of trail bridges. The main thought process here was, how do I kind of make something that's eye-catching and is going to tell you straight away what we're looking at? So the idea of kind of creating a road in Illustrator, but then showing you the kind of positive direction to emphasize that this is a positive increase and an expansive area that we are kind of expanding on following the trail bridge construction. And then this one here is more of a simple graphic just to emphasize that the main thing with the feeder road rehabilitation, at least for the use case in Rwanda, is that we are seeing a 20% increase in actual kind of household income that we see in those villages. The next brief, or the infographics for the next brief, was all around kind of the rural urban nexus. I know, Abby, you mentioned earlier about how the mission has changed slightly, and the fact that we're leading more towards education, and we want to look at kind of the global statistics and how we can provide those insights to kind of other areas in the world. And so I wanted to ensure that there was some infographic here that was actually highlighting that. So that's what I was trying to do with the world map, and fill it up only 35% of the way to highlight that ultimately 35% of the worldwide population, the food that we're using in those areas is produced by smallholder farmers. Some other ones we have on the screen, we've got down the left-hand side here, this was all around Rwanda and what actually are the statistics for the population catchment area for the trail bridge that was created there. And so quite simply, we wanted to kind of very easily visualize that with the fact that we've got 33 villages and 47 square kilometers in bold here. But the icons here, you'll see that there's a key at the top, are going to help you kind of read those charts, so you can see quite easily just how impactful that creation of the bridge in Rwanda was. And then lastly, in the bottom right-hand corner, this was the one I probably had the most fun with. And this was a stat that I thought was quite, it shocked me actually, and I think potentially because I've lived in a city and in London all of my life, but the fact that approximately 50% of our global population live in rural or peri-urban areas. And the way that I wanted to highlight that and showcase that was by the use of showing the level nature on those scales. So we can see we've got our rural environments depicted with our trees and our farmhouses, and the urban environments depicted with our skyscrapers and a little bit of greenery. And I can say that for London, it's not a complete concrete jungle. We do have a little bit of greenery here and there. But for me, this was probably the most eye-catching statistic of all of the ones that I visualized, because I wasn't aware of it previously. And hopefully I'm okay for time, but the last brief that I wanted to go through was the one that was put together for agriculture. So again, I've gone for 3 core statistics that I saw on that data dictionary. And the first of which was this increase in farm profits that we were seeing, a 75% increase following the trail bridge construction. And again, this was for that use case and that paper that was put together on Nicaragua. And so we can see here that we've put together a bar chart. When I looked into the source material, I could see that this was observed over that 3-year time horizon. So that's where I've got the 2014 to 2016 year notation from. And we can clearly see for this 2016 bar that there is this 75% increase from where we started in 2014. And then the plant plot was to, well, how can I make this into a kind of fun statistic? We're talking about agriculture, we're talking about plants. Let's have the bar chart emerging from that plant plot. And then on the right hand side, this was again quite a difficult stat to visualize, and one that is quite similar to the corn statistic that we saw in that climate environment brief. So I wanted to make it a little bit different and emphasize the bridge in the illustration itself. So here we've got that rural road improvements in Uganda led to a 20% reduction in post-harvest losses. And so here we were talking about a reduction. So I wanted to build that into the graphic itself to show that kind of the core structs of that bridge are feeding into that downward arrow to emphasize the direction of that particular statistic. And then lastly, this is one that will mirror what we've just talked about in the rural urban nexus brief. Same idea. We're showing this time that 78% of the world map of the world's poorest people live in rural areas and rely largely on agriculture, which is why it's kind of in this agriculture brief that you can see here. And then we've got a little bit of blurb as to the charity and what you do and all of the impactful work that the team are doing, and links to the website so people can get a little bit more information. And yeah, that's it from my side.
Really, really beautiful work, Ellen, and I would have never guessed London. My bad. In my intro, I should have told everybody, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from. And we kind of missed that this time, so my apologies there. But first time using Illustrator, no, not possible. Wow, that's just beautiful work with Illustrator. And again, a great example for me to use with my students to show, you know, what the different tools are and what the possibilities are. And so again, I love working with the Viz for Social Good folks, and it's so educational as we go through and do these projects for everybody. Once again, Abby, any comments, questions, anything for Ellen and her infographic visualization she put together for you?
Well, I thought this was just another great example of a ton of complicated information beautifully and simply presented, you know, and really like captures the spirit of, I think, the challenge that we threw out there. Really, really loved it. All the different components. My favorite, this I think were the flood and bringing 2 different statistics together to show something pretty complex. And that it personally is the most, that is, I think, my favorite statistic. It's hard to say favorite when it's something that's it's kind of a dark, foreboding thing that we have in front of us, but also tells us how important rural connectivity is going to be when floods are going to, and precipitation is going to increase the way that it is. And I thought that was just a fantastic way of presenting that and really communicating the importance of of safe access. I think you get that from that. I also loved the map piece in general and showing the proportion of total food as a function of a global map. I thought was really cool and interesting and something that I had not seen done before. And I was just in general amazed that, you know, the time that you obviously, and intention that you obviously put into being able to show so much, which is really what we're going for. And I really loved it. So thank you for the time that you put into this. I thought it was really, really successful and really beautifully done.
Yeah, great job. I agree.
Thank you.
Yes.
Keep going, and if it's your first project, it's amazing. I can't wait to see the second one.
Yeah, no, really, really beautiful. Let's see, Ken, how about if you go next, Ken, and show us your visualization,
And could you also, Kevin,
and Martina.
yeah, Martina has joined as well, so she'll be last. And
Martina
maybe
King.
Dennis. You go, Ken.
Martina after Ken.
Start sharing my screen.
Yep, we can see it. Very good.
Okay. All right. So just to introduce myself a little bit, my name's Ken. I work at Discover. For those of you who don't know, Discover is a credit card company in the US. So I'm a principal BI analyst there. So when it comes to this project, I'll touch on mostly on the design thought process that I had, and then since I'm the third one going next, I'll keep it short on the actual statistics. But so touch on the design thought process. So our Discover team, the BI team in Discover, we have implemented the design standards when it comes to building Tableau dashboards. So I took that idea to build this project. So right off the bat, it was really nice for me to have chosen font, colors, and design standards from Bridges of Prosperity. So that actually saves a lot of time when it comes to design process. So all of this, we know that there wasn't much statistic to play around. So a lot of design was done in Figma. So what I'm showing is actually image work I've done in Figma. So, and the reason I kept it very simple when it comes to statistic was that I wanted to font consistent. As you may already know, if you publish dashboard on the Tableau Public, the font may be turned into Times New Roman or Arial, which is very remove all the great works that I've done. So that's why I kept all the big numbers in this Figma. So there is no interactivity there, but yeah. And then when it came to actual design, I was reading through all the project description, and when I actually read this part here, each brief is intended to be digestible and engaging summary. For some reason, I came into the breakfast biscuit I really enjoy, Belvita. So I took this idea of this shape of cookie and then made into cards. So that was one of the design cue that I had. And then the other thing that I tried to do was using the priority to the color, the border of each cards to show that which ones is more important. So let me switch to actual dashboard. So a lot of the description is mostly copy pasted from the project itself. The icons are actually from the flat icons. So these are free icons that I used. And then it's pretty straightforward, but I wanted to use the kind of menu on the left side of it to navigate each brief. And as you already know, the rural urban nexus story had rich data when it comes to actual Rwanda story. So they had a lot of survey data in there. So I definitely wanted to highlight that part. So I added a sub menu here where you can use the Shuanghai container to give you the more detailed story about the Rwandas. And I wanted to add some interactivity to show what's each impact of trail bridges built in Rwanda. So if you click each bubble, it'll filter. So which is pretty straightforward. I didn't want to get really fancy with it because the whole design was more like business tablet design-esque. So yeah, I think this kind of sums up my project. Yeah, thank you.
It's really, really good job, Ken. Really enjoyed looking through yours. And again, Figma, great tool. Lots of BI folks use Figma to kind of prototype, kind of build the skeleton of what they're doing, and then carry that over into Tableau. And again, Tableau public, it doesn't have all of the features and isn't as rich as the desktop environment. So when publishing to public, you need to be aware of that. So great tip for folks there, Ken, to note that. Again, just the way you did the prioritization of things and broke things down, and love the fact that you grabbed that data for Rwanda and had kind of a next level there. Really, really good, rich example to show folks. Any comments or questions, Abby, about Ken's visualization and what he did for you?
I thought this was another really beautiful use of the brand, and then also organization. So organizing all of this information in a way that was easy to navigate and told a story and kind of brought you along stepwise. I really loved that. I love the use of the cards, and the breakfast biscuit inspiration is also pretty cool. Love thinking about like cookies with cards and bits of information that you can kind of like digest individually. I thought that was really cool. And then here, I loved the kind of sum of like the showing the data and the statistics here, but then also saying what that means, and just giving the audience a nice succinct summation of like why this is important, right? So there's an increase in farm profits, but what does that mean? It means that for small scale farmers, this is a boost to their incomes in a significant way. I really loved that bit as well, and thought that overall it was really beautifully done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like for example on this one, I love the fact you've got the bridge down there. That just really great example of what you're talking about and what these statistics are ultimately coming from. So really love that. Great job, Ken. Enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
All right, so up next, I think we've got Martina with us. I think she's got her camera up, ready to share. So let's take a look at what Martina came up with for us. Again, appreciate everybody being here today. Like I say, I forgot to ask folks, give us a quick intro. Who are you? What do you do? And then show us your vids.
Tell me, I don't know if you are already seeing my screen. Yeah?
Not yet. Now you need to share it.
No, right?
Need to
You
share.
see the share button on the bottom of Zoom? The green button?
Yeah, it's the first time I'm using Zoom. I have a new PC and they asked me for permission, so I'm not sure you can see it. Otherwise, maybe I can also send you the link.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin,
I'm sending you here.
I can.
Chat.
Yeah. Kevin, you want to click on the link and share?
Yeah.
You want to do that? It might be easier.
Thank you.
No, that's not it.
It's a Binance.
Yeah.
Behance. Oh, you said Behance?
Yeah,
Beyonce?
it's in Behance. Yeah, I would use it. Mm-hmm. Let me know. Okay, yeah, perfect. So, okay, good. So I also wanted to thank you, first of all, to thank Bits for Social Good, because this is the first time I'm doing a project with you, and I really enjoyed being part of this community. Also had the chance to know Bridges to Prosperity, to know their mission, and also maybe, yeah, in a little part still to contribute to it. So my visualization is about the rural-urban nexus brief. I choose this topic because, yeah, that was also probably the only one in which there was not this issue of having a few data, because here in this case the data set was quite big. There were something like 3,000 entries, 3,000 people interviewed in this data set, and so it was also nice for me to know a lot of data, to know many features, variables about them, about bridges, about like really the impact of bridges on these rural communities. So if you go down a little bit, because we have first an overview in this project of, yeah, here, just here, yeah, perfect, in this project overview of the study, because this was the brief was about an internal study conducted on 6 bridges in Rwanda. And in this survey, it was like a survey in which at the entrance of one of these 6 bridges, people were asked something about their age, gender, purpose of traveling, mode of transportation, on how many people they were carrying with them, and so on. So I try to cover most of these aspects and in 4 different sections. So each page here explain one of these aspects, let's say. And in the first one, as we see here in this project overview, in the first one, we have an introduction of this study. First is an introduction of the study, how many people were interviewed by Bridge. In the second one, we have something about people and socio-demographic information about them by Bridge. In the third one, I'm going to explain connection between the connection of each bridge. So how many villages are connected by Bridge. And in the last page, in the first one, I wanted to bring together people and connected villages and see the purposes, so why they are moving, why they are using bridges. Okay, so we go to the first one. In this one, the first image we see is a map of Rwanda, where we have the location of each bridge, each of the 6 ones in the study. For each one, we have information about the geographical coordinates and the completion date. And also in each circles, we have these people, individuals, the amount of people estimated to be served by the bridge on the top number within each bridge. And inside it, we have also with these small houses, the number of unique village, also in this case estimated to be served by the bridge. So the density of people or houses refer to the amount of people or villages connected by the bridge. And in the second part, we have this plot in which each circle, here we see how many people were interviewed by date, because the study was divided in 3 survey waves. So in light blue, the first one, then in green and blue, the second and the third one. And the size of each circle is proportional to the number of people interviewed by that date and for that bridge. And then in the last part on the right, we see overall how many people interviewed by bridge. So for instance, Gahororo was the bridge with the highest number of interviewed people. Okay, and this was just to introduce the study. Here in the second page, we have more statistics about the people in the study, and that should also represent the people of helped by that bridge in particular. So we start from the top where we have we have some overall statistics about the number of total in party, which is the number of people traveling with the respondent with the same origin, destination, and purposes. And it's divided by 1, so traveling alone, 2, 3, or more than 4. Then the approximated age, which is also divided in 4 classes, school-aged child, young adult, adult, and senior. And then gender, the last one, female in orange and male in blue. So this is overall. And then the second part, we have something more granular by bridge. So the same kind of graph, same representation, but we have a view by bridge this time. And then in the last part, we have a more even more granular view, where I have made some representative sample by bridge. So here you see by bridge always 100 people. So each circle is a people, and overall we have 100 dots. The size of each of them is proportional to the number of total in party. So again, we are always talking about the same kind of information. Total in party this time is represented by the size of each single dot. The color again refers to the gender, and then the age this time is represented by row. So we see, for instance, it's interesting to see where we have for that case, for school-aged child, where we have the highest number, which is for the last bridge, Ruarasi. Yeah, that one, exactly. Okay, then we can move to the next slide. Okay, here about the connection. I've used a graph to see, the idea was to see the fact that even if we talk about single bridges, but they do not just connect 2 or few villages, instead they connect a lot of places, a lot of villages. And also here, each dot in this chart is a village, and we have connections. So we have lines that connect dot when there's when that bridge was used to connect that villages. So I've used the size of each circle to refer to the number of time that place, that village is used, either as origin or destination. And also the size, the width of the lines refer to the number of time there was such a connection between villages. And then colors, in this case, is used to see when a village is used mostly as an origin or as a destination, because when the color is like full orange, it means that the place is used always as a destination, while when it's completely blue, it means that it was always a starting point, and everything in the middle is measure the proportion of time a place was a starting point versus a destination. If we see, for instance, on the right, that example for Gauroro, we see that Karma is very big and orange, so it means it was always a destination point, and all the other places around, which are in blue, all the other dots are starting point. So that means that in Karma, maybe there's something like a school or a hospital or something that really is a destination point for most of the people in that area. Okay, and then we can move to the last part about purposes, which is like a way to combine, for me at least, the two information we have seen before, because people first and then villages. So here we see why they move, why they travel and use bridges. I've used in both charts here the same color, orange and green, to represent and to group purposes based on the fact that they are livelihood related in green, like buying or selling goods, wage labor, farming, and so on, or in orange to group all the other purposes. So in the first map, in the tree map, on the top part of the page, we have an overall view for all surveyed people. So for instance, the most important reason why they move is to visit family or friends, then followed by worship or buying goods, and this up to the last part in the bottom chart, bottom right chart, part of the chart. And then in the representation below, we have, again, a more granular view by bridge, because here we have always the same purposes, but this time we can have we can see a ranking by bridge, because they all fluctuate and intersect, and also we see by bridge, which is the always the top motivation why people use that bridge, and also, yeah, the size of all these lines are proportional to the number of people moving for that reason by bridge always. And yeah, that's it.
Very, very nice job, Martina. I really love down at the bottom. I believe some of the other folks did this as well, but saying, you know, you can find them on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Just like you can find Viz for Social Good on Twitter and LinkedIn. We've got groups out there where you can work with us and follow with us. And again, as I mentioned, I'm returning to the classroom as a college professor. I teach analytics, and I have guest professors for the day all the time. So all of our presenters today, you are welcome to be a professor for the day for me. Down at Louisiana Tech University. So don't be surprised when I ping you and do a follow-up and say, hey, would you love to beam in virtually and chat with my students and talk about data visualization in your design process and how you came up with some of these beautiful, beautiful visualizations that each of you did. Just tremendous job today. Abby, do you have any questions, comments, feedback for Martina on her infographic?
Well, first, I thought this one was just really pretty, really, really beautiful to look at. And I haven't seen our brand used quite in this way, and I quite liked it, especially because I don't know if it's the engineering aspect of our work or what, but I feel like it's the colors and the standards tend to be very sort of like blocky and bold, and I liked how this was used it. There was just a lighter touch here, and I thought it was really beautifully done. In particular, I mean, I loved every piece of this and how it was presented and organized. The catchment survey data, we obviously have, that was the previous Viz for Social Good project. And with all of those visualizations, I didn't see anything quite like this. And so it was really interesting to see it that way. It definitely going to steal that. Loved the cluster map, loved the continuity throughout, and also basically the way the information was organized on a page. It's clear that you know, it's not just skills in data visualization here, right? These are also skills in graphic design and presenting information, and you know, taking the audience or the reader kind of along with you in terms of the story that you want to tell. I really loved this one. I thought it was super cool.
Yes, definitely beautiful job. Really enjoyed all of our projects this time. There's so many great examples. Our charities have a tough time when we say, yeah, we don't want to go all day with this, you know, give us a few. And I love the fact that we have just a few, and I break the rules often 5 to 7 minutes. I don't even have a timer. I just want you to be able to show us what you did. talk about what you did and be able to interact with you. Fred, do we have time? Do we want to go ahead and let Dennis give us a brief view of his?
Yeah, if Abby has time, and don't forget, Abby, you need to select your top favorite one as well. I know there's no prizes, but we'll always love fun having the winner. So keep that in mind. But yeah, if the group is happy to listen to one more from Dennis, if Abby you've got time, I mean that's
I have
amazing.
time.
You've got time. Cool. You go ahead, Dennis, if it's fine with you.
Sure. So I'll try to be really brief.
And Dennis is not prepared, by the way. So
Yeah. Bringing it on him. So, if you just want to bring it up and just kind of show us what you did, Dennis.
Yeah, sure.
Good work, Dennis.
So
Dennis got an award, the most improved last year at the Vizzy. So we love Dennis, and we love that he participates with us as we do each of our volunteers.
Yeah. So I'm a professor of social work here up in Ottawa, Canada, Carleton University, and so Viz for Social Good is like one of my favorite community initiatives. I'm also a relatively new Tableau user, and so I use these community initiatives to try to learn and improve my skills. And so for this one, I wasn't planning to do one, but I wanted, I wanted to participate at least. So I put together kind of what I thought a policy brief could look like. I don't think I'm really adding anything much to the discussion in terms of new visuals. It's big numbers, a map, and bar charts. But there you go. So I do a lot of GIS in my research, mapping, and so usually even if the brief doesn't call for a map, I usually try to include a map. And so, but in this case, I thought the map really helped kind of show and demonstrate kind of the impact. And then in playing with Tableau, I thought, oh, maybe I can do this, make this a little interactive where the user can kind of manipulate some of the information a little bit. So I was just kind of playing with a couple tools. So when you first open the Viz, it actually shows up like this, where the sidebar has this kind of build your own policy brief where you can change the title, you can change some of the narrative, you can pick the images. You can build the map a little bit, like you can add, hopefully an animation works, like you can add buffers and things like that. You can choose kind of the topic of the second chart, which just to add a little interaction. And then I thought it was really cool. I figured out how to, I found this little kind of tip where you can add text, allow the user to manipulate text. And so I just added a couple places where you can change the text of the narrative, the conclusion here and stuff like that. It's a little clunky, but and then but anyways, it was a pleasure working and learning more about the organization. I thought I tried to pick a couple key statistics, obviously the ones that were about the bridges, but then from the survey, I tried to pick a couple things that I thought might resonate with policymakers. I've done policy in the past, and so I know that I know a little bit about policymakers and the lack of attention span. And so big numbers, simple bar charts, I thought were kind of some of the best visuals to go on. And so that's about it. But thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dennis. I really appreciate that. And that's one of my challenges to my students, that I challenge them when they work on these kind of projects, is to have a little bit of interactivity, because that's a strength of these data viz tools usually, to provide a little bit of interactivity, but then also to have the infographic kind of capability to where, yeah, we could just take pieces of this and print them off and use them statically as well. So I challenge my students the same way that you're mentioning to do that. Any comments, questions, or anything for this one, Abby? Again, didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I know as a professor, we can usually talk on things on short notice.
No, I love this. I spent a fair amount of time playing with it and building a bunch of different briefs. I thought that was really cool. and I always love, I'm a map person, and I always love a map or it's like spatial data being kind of front and center. I always think that's really cool. And that is one of the things that stood out to me immediately was how tailored this was to the audience that we were talking about, which is essentially policymakers and stakeholders that have some sort of influence about how transportation infrastructure budgets are spent. Like, yeah, probably not going to dig really, really deep into the data. They want to see they want to see the most important bits communicated really simply and in a bold way. And I thought this was great. And the interactivity, just hadn't seen anything quite like this in any of the visits that I've ever explored, and I thought that was really, really cool.
I think the key message I wanted to put out was like these 6 bridges, you know, they're kind of small, but kind of the impact that they have kind of on a region or even in a province or even beyond that. You know, that was kind of what I was trying to kind of showcase. And I thought the map really kind of showcased that. And then all the other numbers kind of help supplement that. But
yeah,
thank you.
Definitely amplify it. No, and that's something that that we struggle with as an organization, is that you look at a bridge like the one that we're looking at in the photo right there, and you sort of would make the immediate assumption that it's a small bridge that's serving a small number of people because it's in a rural area. It's connecting, you know, maybe 2 villages, and that's just not the case. You know, what we found is that even trail bridges, as small as they are in terms of a project or an infrastructure project, have an outside impact on connectivity, not just in a local area, but across the region. And I thought that was a really cool way of illustrating that.
Yeah, and so I had the kind of the home villages and the destination villages as well. So as an option as well. The map gets a little messy, but anyways. But thank you.
Yeah, no, very good, Dennis. I really enjoyed taking a look at yours, and again, the interactivity I think is really kind of cool. So again, Fred, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've had as many as 10, I think, presenters at a session, and then said, okay, Charity, we're going to put you on the spot. Who's first, who's second, who's third? But I think we've kind of honed in on this getting 5 so we can go a little bit more in depth, spend a little bit more time with each of the 5. And so since I've been MC, I go kind of soft, and I say, you don't have to go and give a gold, silver, and bronze unless you already had thought about that. If you want to give 5 golds, we can do that. If you want to give 3 golds, a silver, and a bronze, hey, we're not the Olympics. We make our own rules as we go. So did you have any thought at all on what you thought of the top 5 that you chose to bring today, Abby? We do like to put you on the spot a little bit and say, hey, what do you think as far as ranking any of these? Are they all gold medalists, or what did you think?
Of course. Well, I first want to say that I think Frederick asked me for 5 to send in, and I think I sent 8 or 10. So I didn't fully follow directions because we just couldn't pick.
Right.
And I will say that our next steps as an organization are going to be to get together with our strategic partnership folks and our marketing lead and say, okay, what can we pull from all of these to produce some final briefs? And then also something we hadn't had in the project scope, but that we'll probably end up expanding on, is having digital components, because there are so many cool digital pieces here that I don't think we can stop at PDF now that we've seen you know, what you can do with this and how beautifully this can be presented online. So even if you didn't speak today, there's a pretty good chance that we may be in touch with you in the not too distant future to say, hey, can we steal this bit? You know, maybe ask your advice. So I've said this before. One of the things that I really love about Biz for Social Good is this intersection of community and expertise and learning, all in service of social impact. I think is just super cool. And I love that everyone can kind of come together to bring their own expertise and experience and perspective to produce something really, really wonderful. That said, I thought I was only supposed to pick the one tough one, so that's what I came prepared to do.
Go with it.
But it was so difficult. It was really, really hard. I will say, everybody that presented today, if you wouldn't mind slacking or emailing me your address, I have a little something for everybody as a thank you. Our number one was Martina. Thank you, Martina. We just thought yours was really gorgeous. Was probably very easily translatable to print, which but also really beautifully visualized online, and I think everybody was blown away. So thank you very much and congrats. And I have a little something for you that we'll get in the mail here quickly. But truly, just really really honored and feel very supported and really feel that I think it's for those of us who spend a lot of time thinking about rural transportation infrastructure, it feels really special and really cool to know that all of these people here have also spent a lot of time thinking about this, and having your unique perspectives is just absolutely invaluable. We're really grateful.
Well, thank you so much, Abby. Again, we really appreciated and enjoyed working with you and your group. It's been beneficial for all of us, and it's really been a great opportunity for us to come together. If you guys didn't remember, I'm the selfie king. I got to grab a picture. So please, if any of you can, turn your cameras on if you want to and join in. Smile, wave, throw up the V, whatever you want to do as I capture this and tweet it out and advertise for our group. But again, really enjoyed this. And for me, I've got 5 gold medalists. Fred, Viz for Social Good Champions. Do you want to plug that again out on the Slack channel, I believe? Is that correct, Fred?
Yeah, that's a new initiative where we assign points based on participation and people presenting. But I was hoping to do a demo, but we don't have time and it's getting late. But I'll advertise, send you emails and put stuff on Slack. So I'll keep you posted when I publish the new dashboard with the point and with the leaders. But basically, people submitting have 10 points or 20 points, and people presenting have 10, I think. So it's all fun anyway. And you can even download the certificate at the end on the dashboard. But I'll send you an email as a follow-up tomorrow.
People can vote for their favorite, and folks will get some points for that. And so, yeah, just trying to add some new aspects and some new fun to it. So if you all want to smile, if you want to wave, if you want to throw up Zoe's V for me, everybody smile, wave, say, hey, we're happy to be here. Look at Doc in his new house. He's having fun. All right. Thank you so much, folks. I really appreciate the time. We ran a little over, but with a professor, that always happens. We always run over. So thanks so much, everybody. I will be in touch with each of you. For those of you watching this on the recording, where are you? Come next time. Join us next time so you can participate. And please email us, contact us, get on Twitter, get on LinkedIn, join us, help us build this community. And thank you again so much, Abby. Really enjoyed a second go around and seeing what we can do.
Thanks again for joining, everyone.